Good afternoon, everybody. This is Ed Avis. I'm the Managing Director of APDSP, and I'd like to welcome you to our webinar this afternoon on coronavirus and reprographics. This is the second webinar on this topic that we've given since the crisis started. It's a little hard to believe that it was almost a month ago that we did the first one. So it's a lot of water under the bridge since then. I want to remind you that we welcome questions during this panel discussion. On your GoToWebinar control panel, you should see a questions tab, and I encourage you to send in questions frequently. You don't need to wait until the end of a particular speaker. Whenever a question comes to your mind, please use that questions tab and send it. If you don't see the questions tab on your screen, click on the little orange arrow at the top of the dialog box, and that should reveal the tabs. Also, I would love to learn what success stories you have, if any, during this crisis. And what I mean by that is, have you successfully created some graphs that pertain to the coronavirus, or found some new clients who needed some kind of services that you were providing, or signage, or anything? I want to be able to talk about those things and share them with others, not just in today's panel discussion, but in the future. I want to be able to share with other members what people are doing. So if you have done some interesting work during this time, please share that also in the questions tab. Just write in there briefly what you've done and with your name, so that we can make note of that. Okay, we have two speakers on the panel today. We have Jen Fuller, who's the president of DRsi in Seattle and also in Bellevue, Washington. Jen will talk about the experiences that she's having at her firm, and in her experiences applying for the federal aid. And then we'll have Chad Sealey, who's the director of sales and marketing for Sharpe in North Carolina. Chad will talk about what they're doing, and also about some of their safety services that they have been succeeding with during this time. So welcome to those speakers. All right, I'm going to jump right in with the results of this survey. So the first question that we asked everybody was a basic one: are you still open? And we did this survey twice. Now, this is the second survey. On April 2nd, you can see, if you look on the right, pardon me, on the left side of your screen there, 65% of the respondents were open, and 35% were open, but with some limited hours. We did the survey again last week, and the numbers have shifted some. 38% now are open the regular hours, 38 have gone to limited time, and 4% are not open at all. Actually, sorry, that should be 14% are not open at all. That adds up better. Now, you should know there's only 23 members responded to this survey, so the numbers are not that statistically significant, but they give you an interesting picture, at least, of a shift. And it's probably not the same 23 people who replied each time, but still, it gives us some picture of what's going on there. The second question was, have you laid off or furloughed staff? This one, very similar responses both times. In the most recent survey, you can see that 13% of the respondents have laid off everybody, whereas that was only 4% in the April 2 survey. Otherwise, the numbers are pretty much the same. Now, this question, the next question was, how has your business changed? And it was, these numbers changed a little bit between the two surveys, but not very much. And I'm going to write about this survey in Friday's e-newsletter, so you can read more details there. I didn't want to put them all on the screen because it was getting crowded. But the numbers have not changed that much in the 3 weeks since the last survey. In general, you can see there a couple people have increased or have maintained their business. The majority of people have lost business, obviously. The biggest grouping being there between 50 and 75%. So if there was any question that this crisis was affecting reprographics, well, this should put that to rest. Now, here's a question that we did not ask in the first survey. And I wish we had, but didn't think about it at that time. But we did ask it this time, and I think it's more pertinent this time. And that is, have you applied for the government aid? 90% have applied for the Paycheck Protection Program, which makes complete sense because that's a program, as you know probably, that is it's a forgivable loan, assuming you use the money appropriately. Another 19% have applied for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. Now, those 19% who applied for that SBA loan also applied for the Paycheck Protection Program. There's 100% overlap there. All of those people did both. And 15% either said no or they did not answer. So you can see there that the majority of the members and the industry as a whole are applying for the aid as we would expect them to do. And a follow-on question to that, I asked people to tell me if they had been approved, and 78% had been approved for one or both programs that they had applied for. So that's good to hear. And then kind of a key question we asked was, if you close, meaning if business gets so bad that you decide you're better off closed, would you reopen? And in both surveys, a vast majority said they would reopen, which is good to see. There's a slight change in that this time. As you can see, 8% said no, they wouldn't, which is sad this time. But again, it's a small sample, 23 members, and we don't know if they're the same members, so I'm not sure how serious that is. What is good to see is the vast majority believe that they would remain open. And then this is also a question we did not ask the last time. Have you or an employee become infected with coronavirus? And 9% said yes. So out of the 23, that means two respondents said that they or an employee had become infected, which is kind of scary. And personally too, I have come to know a good handful of acquaintances and friends, and actually one family member who has become infected. So the disease is definitely spreading, as we know, and that's going to affect us. Okay, so those are the results of the survey. Like I said, if you have any questions, please email them or use your questions tab to send those to me, and we can answer them now or at the end of the presentations. And please, again, use that questions tab also to share your success stories. Share the work you're doing now that you think other people might be interested in. We'd love to learn about that. Oh, I'm sorry, there was another question here I wanted to talk about. And that is, we asked kind of an open-ended question, and that was, what are your main concerns? And we got lots of responses to this. I just picked these three into the presentation so you could see them. I'm not going to read them because but that first one has an interesting little note to it, and what it says is that states are accelerating electronic submission standards. That's an important issue, much beyond just the coronavirus situation. As I'm sure many of you have observed, states are starting to require more and more electronic submittals. And the coronavirus situation is accelerating that. And we'll be writing more about that later. But that's an issue that I think we should be fully aware of and keep on our minds. If you had a chance to read the articles that we Q&A interview with Achim Karius, who's the leader of the German reprographics group, and he said exactly the same thing. The coronavirus accelerated the move to digital submittals, and that Europe-wide that is becoming much more common. So that's something we should keep an eye on. And that second comment there was very interesting too. Customers going to competitors who are not following the stay-at-home order. Of course, that completely depends on your location and what the stay-at-home order says. Many reprographics shops are considered essential depending on where their location is, so they don't really have that problem. And then that last question I just typed in there because it is so emblematic of what's going on, and that is, will we ever get back to where it was, or are we in for a long recession? How will our construction sector, or architecture, engineering, construction, be affected over the next year? That's a huge question that we don't know, obviously. So we're going to have to pay attention to that. We do have one question that came in, and that is, of the 78% who have been approved for the loans, have the firms that received approval actually received the loan proceeds? And I do know the answer to that question. That question was part of the question. I didn't gather the info on that yet, but I do have it. So on Friday, when I publish the article based on the survey, I'll include that information. Off the top of my head, a couple of people said they got it, and a couple of people said they're waiting. But that's all I've got right now. Okay, now I'd like to turn it over to Jen Fuller. Jen is the president of DRsi, and Jen and I have met, and she has applied for these loan programs. And you can see that picture that is on your screen now. I grabbed that from her Facebook page. Her company has made those masks. So Jen, are you with us?
Yep, I'm here.
Great, thanks, Jen. I hope you can share a little bit about what your firm is doing and your experience applying for those loans.
Yeah, briefly on what the company is doing. So we're in Washington State, and unlike a lot of other states, the governor clarified construction is not considered essential here. There are a handful of projects that are essential, specifically, supporting healthcare, food, etc., but not all construction. So we're in a little bit different situation, I think, than some of the other groups on the phone. So we do have a lot of competitors that are operating business as usual and will print anything you want. I feel strongly that we need to support and follow the governor's order, and so we have asked our clients only to send in projects that are in support of essential businesses and projects that have been deemed as essential. So our volumes are way down. We have one or two people in the shop to run those orders when they come in, versus our full staff is 24 people. So that's where we're at. We have not laid anyone off at this point. I did apply for both the PPP and the EIDL loan. The EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, was available a few weeks before the PPP in Washington because we were declared a state of emergency or whatever the declaration was that made you eligible for that. Interestingly, at the time, I saw the interest rate at 3.75% and said, that's not that great. I don't want to apply for that. I'm going to wait for something better. Without kind of knowing all the terms on that loan. And then when the PPP got finalized, I did apply for that immediately. My bank, I work with a small local bank. They were not taking applications on Friday the 3rd when the SBA opened up that program, but they were ready to go on Monday the 6th. So if I remember the timeline, I sent in my application actually Sunday afternoon, so my banker would have it first thing Monday morning. I received word that I was approved on Tuesday the 7th, and then I actually got the funding on Saturday the 11th. So we are good for the next 8 weeks to continue to employ our team, even though most of them are not working, and use some of those funds to cover other ongoing expenses like rent and leases and things like that. The EIDL loan, I applied for that around the same time. I honestly don't remember exactly the date. And got a confirmation right away that my application had been submitted, and that's it. I called into the SBA once, maybe a week and a half ago, to check on it, and they said, yep, we have it and someone will email you. So I'm hearing from other business owners that if you didn't, some colleagues and friends of mine who applied here in Washington early on got funded end of March, beginning of April. But others who've applied more recently, like myself, I think are in a similar situation where just haven't heard anything. And the news is obviously saying that the EIDL program is completely overloaded. So I'm not counting on funding from that. It would be nice to have just to give us a little bit more flexibility. But at this point, I think it's prudent to assume that we're not going to get that.
Jen, on the PPL application, that program ran out of money, but they are supposedly going to fund it again soon. So people might be interested to know, from your perspective, how difficult was it to apply?
It wasn't too bad. It was basically just having to pull together your payroll records. When I applied, the information was still coming out as to what was included and excluded in that definition of payroll. Our Medicare taxes, what about Social Security? It was clear that benefits, health insurance was included in that. So I just put together a spreadsheet, column by column. Here's my gross wages, here's my Social Security contribution, my unemployment contribution, so on and so forth. And then I requested an amount based on the total of all of those things. But I wanted the bank to have the data and in case they said, no, this or this isn't qualified. I didn't want it to kick my application out of the system and have to start over. And I did get approved for the full amount that I had requested, which was a broader definition of payroll expense that included all of those taxes and fees for workers' comp and unemployment, et cetera. So it wasn't that onerous. And for context, I purchased this business a little over a year ago. Never thought I'd be sitting here. But the process for acquiring the business, the loan process there was very onerous. So my reference point perhaps is a little bit skewed. This was pretty straightforward, I thought.
And Jen, you had a relationship with this bank already, right? This was your normal bank?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And were they helpful in understanding the application?
They were a good partner. I reached out early on before the CARES Act had even been approved to make sure my banker was aware of it and knew I'd be applying. And I didn't wait for them to come to me at all. I reached out before CARES was approved, which is what created the Paycheck Protection Program loans. And then as soon as it was approved, I was emailing with my understanding of interpretation and asking if they saw it any differently. So I was pretty proactive in it. I think that is part of why my loan went through quickly, because my banker was ready to go and she knew I was ready to go, and I'd been emailing her pretty much daily just to check in. So I do think being proactive helped in that process.
Great. Thank you, Jen. Attendees, let me remind you, if you have any questions for Jen or me, please go ahead and send them. Jen, I've got another question, and that is your staff. So you're paying them, but there's not much work for them to do. Are they at home? Are you asking them to do anything, or what's the status there?
Most everybody's home. And they have been. I went to a split shift kind of I think, second week of March before they declared this an emergency here, and we were a little bit ahead of it. Excuse me. And so I've been paying a full staff for half or less than a half staff of work since the beginning of March, which has been a little bit challenging, but just felt like the right thing to do. So I think I have 3 people working in my shops right now to catch those essential business orders that are coming in. Everybody else is home, idle. You know, my production staff, there's not much work from home they can do. I do have a few support people. You know, my finance accounting person obviously is able to work remotely. My salesperson is staying in touch with customers, but most folks are just kind of waiting. I'm trying to put together some work that they can do from home to train on a new system that we're going to be bringing in. But frankly, it's not quite ready for prime time. So we're trying to figure out how we can at least use a little bit of this downtime to help them get familiar with that. But I'm basically just paying for a lot of unused hours.
Got it. Okay. Jen, can you your company?
Sorry, Ed, would you say that again? I think my internet cut out there.
Sure. Can you tell us what's the deal with this picture that was on your Facebook page of the medical people with the masks?
Yeah. So as I said, I bought the company a year ago. Our revenue is about 70 to 80% from reprographics today. But part of my strategy was to build out into the large format graphics space, which I'm sure a lot of folks on the phone here have done as well. We bought a flatbed printer in December, and we got a new flatbed cutter router in January. And we were ready to go and really excited about building out that business, and had been doing a little bit, but not a ton. And then coronavirus hit, and a very savvy person on my team noticed that other shops that had cutting equipment were able to make face shields. So we were, you know, trying to figure out if there was a way we could contribute. We don't have any sewing capabilities, but my team found a design for these face shields you see that they're wearing that's just made out of sheets of PETG. And the nice thing about these is a lot of the face shields I've seen online require the headband to be 3D printed. This one is just a strip of PETG, and it's got a bunch of holes cut out of the back basically so they can size it to their head. And then the shield itself connects on with the same screw post we've been using for our plan sets. And that's it. They're ready to go. So this is another one that's a little bit financially challenging. The right thing to do is to make these if we can. We found out we were able to, and we got some material. We're not selling them at this point. And so all of that material cost and the labor we're contributing is basically a donation. So we've been able to donate these to a few healthcare facilities around here. We're trying to see if there's a way we can get some revenue for them just to cover the cost to make this more sustainable. But in fact, I delivered some over the weekend to a friend of a friend who is a physician's assistant staffing a COVID testing station. And she said she and her team had been wearing the same face shield, one face shield, for the last 4 weeks. And they're taking it off and cleaning it multiple times a day. I was shocked by that because it's been bad here in Washington State, but we were pretty early on, and so I thought that we would have caught up with the PPE demand by now. And frankly, I was just appalled to hear that even after we've been dealing this for quite a while here in Washington, they still had such an extreme shortage of these face shields. So we're going to continue making them as long as we can afford. And at the same time, we're looking for buyers, even if we just sell them at cost, just to enable us to continue doing it.
And do you have an approximation of how many you've made and donated?
It's in the hundreds. It's not huge. Yeah, pretty small numbers. We're using a Colex cutter, which some of you guys may have as well. And there's plans out there that are ready to go. You slap the material down, let it cut. I think it takes like 40 minutes to cut one of the sheets because there's a lot of intricate cuts on it. And then you weed them and put them together. So it's great to be able to contribute in that way, even if it's a small volume.
Congratulations to you for doing that. That's great work, and it's good to see that you were able to put your people to work on a very useful thing like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jen, we do have another question. You mentioned that construction was deemed non-essential, but we have a question here, and that is, are the A&E firms, the architects and engineers in your market, still working?
Yeah, and that's been a challenge. Most of them can work from home. We normally provide a great service and will deliver anywhere. We often deliver to homes in normal business. And so I think it's been a little bit of a challenge for those customers who may be working on residential construction, which the governor explicitly said is not essential. And they want their plans. And so it's been a little bit challenging to tell great customers, I'm sorry, I can't serve you. And it's not because I don't have someone in the shop, I do, but it's because I'm trying to honor the spirit of the governor's agreement. And for the most part, our customers actually have been great about that and have been very understanding. But it's really hard to say no to business when they want us to print something. We obviously need the revenue in these times, but we're asking them to wait until the order is lifted.
Well, good for you. Okay, attendees, again, any questions, please ask them. We're going to move on. Jen, I want to apologize that I added an extra N on your first name there. I see on the screen.
That's okay.
In case anyone's wondering, Jen's first name is not with two N's, it's with one. So, Jen, thank you very much for telling us about that. We appreciate that. Jen has two young kids at home, so if she needs to run, we understand. Oh, hey, Jen, here's another question just came in. Yeah, the question is this: have you had competition that has ignored the order and stayed open?
It seems that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good. Thank you, Jen. Okay, we're going to switch over here now to Chad Sealey. Chad is the Director of Sales and Marketing for Sharpe. Chad, are you with us?
Yes.
Great. Thanks for joining us, Chad. Can you tell us what's going on at Sharpe, and then tell us a little bit about what that offer that you told me about the other day?
So we are a pretty diverse organization with your standard reprographics printing, your large and small format printing. We do have two flatbeds and a router cutter. We've been doing that for several years now, probably 15 years. We also have a safety division that sells safety PPE to mainly the construction industry as a supplemental service to our reprographics customers, which is where we started back in '56. And we just kind of diversified a little bit over the years to the demands and requests of our existing customer base, and picked up a lot of retail customers when we got into the wide format arena. We recognize the need, kind of as Jim was saying, with the ability of our router cutter to manufacture protective devices or tools for our retail and customer-facing industries such as banking, convenience stores, grocery stores, who were deemed essential businesses that needed to stay open. And we started out manufacturing plexiglass, what we call sneeze guards, which gives you a clear barrier between you and your customer. It started with a request from banks for their loan officers who were continuing to work via appointment only. The day-to-day banking services, the teller windows were not closed. That was drive-through only, but the loan officers still had to bring customers in by appointment to finalize paperwork, get signatures and whatnot. And they wanted to offer a layer of protection for those employees. So we designed a clear 1/4-inch plexiglass sneeze guard for their desktops. And that has since turned into, we've morphed the design to accommodate call center cubicle walls. And we are in the process of making a retail version for cash registers and banking windows to allow the passing of merchandise and paperwork under the plexiglass back and forth between the customer and the employee. We've also, like Jen, discovered or figured out that our router could cut the PETG plastic material. Our design's a little bit different than what Jen showed. We are using the PETG for the actual clear face shield, but we are using a styrene material for the headband, a 1-inch by 1-inch foam for the spacer that goes between the forehead and the headband, and then a Velcro closure on the headband to adjust for sizing. And we are in the process of making, I believe we have materials to make 28,000. We've already sold 15,000 to customers. And that actually allowed us to get in with some customers that we hadn't been able to get in front of. Initially through the donation of some of these face shields that we're talking about, the PETG face shields, as well as we've been selling face masks, the cotton variety. We've got a couple of manufacturers here, a sock manufacturer and a underwear and t-shirt manufacturer that have retrofitted their machines to make cotton face masks that we have been purchasing and reselling with minimal margin to everyone and anybody who needs them. With the new order that had been sent out for North Carolina anyway, I don't know if it's been rolled out in all states, but the wearing of face masks in public is made the demand just explode. So we've got several different resources now that have either purchased machines that make these face masks or retrofitted existing machines to make these face masks, and we are purchasing those and making those available to our customers. So those are some of the things that we've done just to kind of spin and adapt to the situation that we're all facing with the coronavirus, and trying to do our part not only to support the safety of everyone, but also our new reality that our customers are facing as they plan to reopen and what that's going to look like for them.
Very interesting. Hey, Chad, did your firm design those sneeze guards yourselves, or did you find designs for them?
We actually designed the ones that we're manufacturing. We've recently seen one of our competitors kind of take that design and modify it slightly. We've seen some social media posts with their design on there, which was flattering, and good for them for taking that step.
And Chad, on this picture on the screen, which I took from your Facebook page,
yeah,
it shows the floor graphics in a grocery store or a convenience store.
Yeah.
Is that a business that you had before, or is that a growing business for you at this moment, or what?
Like I said, we've been doing the large format printing for, we've had flatbed printers for the last 15 years. So we've been doing the large format printing. So it's something we've been doing, just, accommodating the new demand for social distancing tools and resources. This picture that you're looking at is a grocery store chain that we provide a lot of graphics for, and social distancing throughout the store. I think they're getting ready to, if they have not already, getting ready to make aisles one way to help with social distancing. I think a lot of grocers have started doing that. Some have started using styrene signage that is suspended from shelving to indicate what direction you're supposed to be going in. Others are using floor decals like you see there. Most of your floor decals have been used at registers to help with spacing out customers while they wait to check out. So yeah, I mean, floor graphics, suspended signage, street signage, window graphics. We've done a ton. We've done sidewalk signage for restaurants to help promote the fact that they are open for takeout and delivery, that they're not closed. So we've just been doing a lot of short-term, high-demand stuff like that.
Got it. And Chad, to whom have you been selling the new shields that you're making? The face shields.
Banking and restaurants, convenience stores. Those are the three big ones that have jumped on. I'm actually meeting tomorrow, meeting with a owner of several hair salons who we are going to take a look at her space and see if we can custom design some plexiglass dividers for her booths within her salon.
Wow, that's great. Now, can you give us an estimate of how much other more traditional work you've not been doing during this time compared to the new work that you're getting?
Yeah, so we've got several large retail customers, some of which have had massive furloughs. A lot of funding has been frozen, projects have been delayed or canceled. So we have been approved for the PPP loan and are waiting the funding. We should have that by the end of the week. We have been working modified shifts or modified hours on our small format side. We've really seen that business take a hit over the last month. And small format is defined as like your business card, pocket folders, brochures, pamphlets, things of that nature. Really seen a big hit there. I believe we've been on a 4-hour workday with them now for 2 weeks. Our large format, which is the flatbeds, your larger graphics, we've seen a hit there, but we are utilizing the equipment from that division to do these plexiglass sneeze guards and face shields and things of that nature. Construction business has been pretty consistent. Your traditional repro with your bond printing. We've only seen a couple of our 7 locations really have a hiccup, and that was really only for about a week and a half, and they've bounced back and are actually thriving now. So, safety obviously has taken off and exploded just because of the demand and supply. If you can get your hands on it, you can pretty much sell it. So, yeah, I mean, that's really the division that's taken the biggest hit is a small format, and then the large format. We're still doing a lot of planning, but there's not projects going out the door. There are a lot of planning for projects when things reopen, getting ready for campaigns that are going to happen like back to school and Black Friday. And I mean, I know that those seem far away, but that now is when that planning happens.
Understood. And other than having some of your people work on half shifts, have you had to lay off or furlough anybody?
We have not.
Great.
And I do want to, like to your point, Ed, we are wanting to offer you guys that are strictly reprographics that don't do anything else, the ability to utilize us as a resource for these safety goods. And if you can get your existing construction or AEC customers, if they are interested in purchasing that stuff, we'll be happy to sell you the face masks, face shields, sneeze guards, if that's something of interest, banners, decals, things, anything that you guys might need or your customers might need, we'll sell them at a discount so that you can make some profit and resell it.
Great. Thank you for making that offer, Chad. Attendees, if you're interested in that, there's a brief article about it on the APDSP website right now. But also when I post this webinar online, I'll include Chad's contact information. Please ask questions if you have any, people. Also, again, if you have any success stories that you can share, we would love to hear them. In the meantime, Chad, let me ask another question. And I don't know if you were involved in this, but how difficult was the application for the PPP?
It wasn't that difficult. It seemed like you were, because we were very proactive about gathering all of the required documentation, and it seemed like, as soon as you thought you had everything, something would change and you'd have to gather some additional information. And when applications were being accepted seemed to move on us. We were prepared, but there was, instead of us submitting it on a Friday, we had to wait until Monday. But the process itself wasn't that difficult.
I think we lost you there. Can you repeat that?
Oh yeah, sorry. The process itself was not that difficult. It felt like things changed as we were gathering information to submit with the application. But instead of submitting on a Friday, we had to wait until Monday. But the process itself was not difficult.
Okay. And you worked with your existing bank to get that done?
Correct.
Great. Okay. Good. Well, thank you very much, Chad, for this information. It's good to hear that you're succeeding and finding some success in this area. Attendees, please do ask more questions. We have Joseph Zobadi from Repro Connect he emailed me earlier with some interesting things he has learned about some what's going on with his clients, and I'd like to ask him to say a few words. And Joseph, I'm going to turn on your microphone here if I can. Give me a minute. All right, Joseph, can you hear me?
Yeah, hi, Ed.
Oh, great. Okay, so this is Joseph Zobadi. He's from Repro Connect. Many of you know him. His firm, well, I'm not going to make a mistake here. Joseph, you please tell people what your company does, and then tell us about what you have just recently learned.
Well, as most of you know, we have provided a planning product to the industry now for almost 2 decades. And I really enjoyed hearing about some of those unique opportunities there from Sharpe and DRsi. That was really interesting. And I just wanted to pipe in perhaps with yet another success story and opportunity that we have really seen explode over the past 2 weeks, especially since the last webinar, and that is electronic bidding with public agencies. Now, if the 2 words electronic bidding make you break out in a cold sweat, you're not alone. It probably evokes a lot of images of complicated public bid law and a ton of liability, and you would not be wrong. But we have been spending the past few weeks absorbing a lot of that process. I have been having probably 3 to 5 meetings daily with various agencies around the country, Never before in the history of our company have we had cities call us, right? We serve the reprographics industry. So we're having cities in various states calling us up, basically telling us that they are frantically trying to figure out how to move a bid process to the web digital, since they cannot have in-person bid opening meetings at City Hall for obvious reasons. And they can't just have bidders email those documents, because that violates all kinds of public bid law. Those have to be sealed. So they're looking for a platform that helps them manage a secure, sealed bid process. And so we have actually had a component of the planning that's done that for the past few years, but it's been sort of on the back burner. And we have now rediverted pretty much all of our development efforts very quickly into building out a suite of tools for secure, sealed electronic bidding. And just in the past few weeks have set up several dozen agencies and several through our reprographers, I'm saying. So we're working with our reprographers to set up these secure electronic bidding capabilities on their plan units that they can then turn around and provide to the public entities as a service, as a chargeable service, but even more importantly, as a service that's growing their client base of public entities, cities, school districts, even park districts, water and sewer divisions, you name it. If it's public sector, they're looking for an online bid solution. So it's driving already, just in these past 2 weeks, it's driving projects into the hands of some of our reprographers that didn't previously work with those agencies, which subsequently is producing print orders and a whole lot of download revenue, not to mention just the chargeable item itself for the electronic bid capabilities. So that's kind of exciting. We are going crazy with this right now. It's really taking a lot of the energy out of our team, but we're excited to see at least some opportunities for reprographics right now and pursuing it hard. So if that's of any interest to you, if there's any public agency clients that you have that you would want to perhaps explore this, or even just see it as a sales opportunity to grow client base, give me a ring or drop me an email, joseph@reproconnect.com, and we can chat about that.
Great, thank you, Joseph, for sharing that. And I've asked Joseph to write a little bit about this opportunity, and if he's able to get that done in the next couple of days, we'll post it and then put it in Friday's e-newsletter, so people can read more about it. What Joseph is telling us about follows up on what I mentioned earlier about what's going on in Europe and, of course, in the United States, and that is that much of the submittal process is slowly going digital, and it seems like this crisis might just accelerate that across the board. All right, any other questions? Or if you've got a cool success story you want to share, please do that. We've got one question, and that is, when will the webinar be posted online? And I'll probably be able to do that either later tonight or in the morning. You know, it just takes a little while for the video to get processed. But as soon as it is, I'll post it online, and I'll send you all an email so that you can view it again that way. All right, so I don't see any other questions coming in. So thank you all very much for participating today. Thank you especially to Jen and Chad and Joseph for sharing your experiences with the APDSP members today. It's a crisis we're living through, but we're going to survive, and I think the innovations that are emerging here will change the industry, and hopefully some of them will improve the industry. So again, thank you everyone for attending, and look for the posting of the webinar when it goes up, and stay tuned for other information about this crisis on the website. In fact, if you need information about what's going on, the website is a great resource. We've written 5 or 6 articles on the situation and on resources. So thank you everyone for your time, and this concludes today's webinar.